Hey everybody, welcome to the channel, welcome to the show. I hope you're having a great day. My name is Eric and thanks for joining us. Today we have got a very special sausage. We're going to be making a Cantonese style of sausage known as Lap Cheong. Now I must admit that my experience with Lap Cheong has not been very pleasant. Matter of fact, every time I've ever bought it from the grocery store, it has been a disaster, and it almost made me not want to make it for this year's Celebrate Sausage, and I'm glad that we didn't do that. Lap Cheong is an air-dried sausage that takes about 3 or 4 days to make, and the end result is absolutely brilliant. It's a salty, sweet sausage that's a little bit waxy with a tremendous amount of flavor. And in my research for Lap Cheong, I ran across a YouTube channel called Chinese Cooking Demystified. And I'm going to put a link in the description box below. I invite you to check them out, subscribe to their channel while they're there. It's a great channel full of incredible information, and they really do a good job explaining and demystifying Chinese cooking. And today's recipe is a version of their Lap Cheong recipe, and it came out incredible. So without further ado, this process is going to take about 3 or 4 days. So let's get started with this Lap Cheong.
All right, the first thing we want to do to prepare this Lap Cheong is get our pork back fat ready. Just so that you know, this particular sausage is not a sausage that can be made in one day. So give yourself plenty of time to make this Lap Cheong. Okay, so our goal for processing this back fat is small cubes. So we're just going to cut slices and then strips, and then we're going to cut that into small cubes. You really don't want to use a grinder for this particular sausage because it completely changes the texture of the final product. So if you could do everything by hand, that would be ideal. So there we go. There's our small cubes. And we're going to take those small cubes and place them into some boiling water for about 2 minutes. What we're doing here is blanching the back fat. And the purpose of blanching the back fat really comes twofold. Number one, it preserves the color of the back fat. It's going to keep it really nice and white. And it's also going to help with the texture of the final product. So into the water it goes. Give it a little stir just to kind of break up the pieces. And we're going to set a 2-minute timer. After 2 minutes, we'll take it out, give it a rinse, and I'll show you what to do next. Okay, so our fat has been blanched. It's been rinsed off and cooled, and now we're going to candy it. And this is a great process. It's going to add a nice sweetness to this fat. And all we're going to do is alternate between layers of sugar and blanched back fat until we run out of back fat. Pretty simple, not a complicated process. You don't really need to measure out how much sugar you add because the fat is only going to absorb what it absorbs. So we're going to put our final layer as sugar. Once we get that going, we're going to take that and set it into the refrigerator, and that's going to hang out overnight. Next, we're going to process our pork, and this also needs to be done the same day you do the pork back fat because it all needs to cure and hang out in the fridge for at least a day. We're going to process the pork the exact same way that we process the fat. We're going to be cutting this into strips and then again into very small cubes. Once all your pork is cut up, let's get our seasonings and spices together. And so for this particular sausage, we're going to start with some curing salt. So we're going to be using Instacure number 1. I'm also going to be using a touch of ginger. We're going to add a little bit of MSG, that's monosodium glutamate. We're going to add our salt, and then we're going to add some sugar. This particular sausage does tend to be a little on the sweeter side, and that wraps up our spices. So we're going to take all those spices and add it to the cubed pork. Now, as always, you will find a link for this recipe in the description box below. Once your spices are added to the pork meat, add your soy sauce, and what we're doing is creating somewhat of a marinade, somewhat of a curing brine. This is going to soak into that pork, giving it lots of flavor. Finally, we're going to add some liquor. Now, generally, a rose type of wine or a rose type of liquor is added, but I didn't have that available, so I went with whiskey, and it turned out to be a great choice. After the liquor addition, go ahead and mix everything well to combine. You just want to make sure that all those pieces are coated inside that marinade, inside that brine. Cover it with some cling film and then place it in your refrigerator overnight. This is going to cure, it's going to soak up that liquid, it's going to add a lot of flavor, and this is what it's going to look like the following day. Look at the color. Completely changed, nice and red. Let's go ahead and get the fat. There's our candied back fat. And you know what? Let's go ahead and clean the fat off right quick. So I'm going to pour that into just a little strainer. We're just going to rinse off any excess sugar. And then once we're done rinsing it off, we're just going to let it drain for about 5 minutes or so before adding it to our cured pork meat. And at this point, our sausage filling is basically finished. We're just going to combine the fat and the pork together, and then we're going to get that stuffed into a sausage casing. For the sausage casing, we're going to go small diameter. We're going to be using a sheep casing that we got from the sausage maker, 22-24 millimeter. We just have that soaking in some lukewarm water for a couple of hours. And now it's time to get our sausage stuffer ready. We're just packing that meat and fat filling into our sausage stuffer. We're going to load it up. And you do want to make sure that you lubricate any gasket that your sausage stuffer might have. That's just going to reduce the amount of tension on the gears and help it drop a little bit easier. So let's go ahead and get this stuffed into our sausage casing. Okay, our Lap Cheong has been cased. We've pricked it with a sausage pricker to remove any air pockets, and it's now time to start drying. Before we want to dry this though, I do want to pour a little alcohol on it, and since we used whiskey in the recipe, we're just going to continue with that theme, pour a little bit of whiskey on it, and just make sure that all those sausages get coated with that whiskey. Basically give it a whiskey bath, help clean up and get rid of any external bacteria on these sausages. So as soon as they're completely coated, we can now take these sausages and begin drying them. The way I dry these sausages may be different than the way you dry your sausages. Where I live, it's pretty humid and kind of cool right now. So we're going to place these into our smoker, not to smoke them, but to dry them at a very low temperature. We're going to be drying these with the door open so that we can get some airflow at 90 degrees Fahrenheit or 32 degrees Celsius for 24 hours. You can also achieve this by placing your Lap Cheong inside of a dehydrator for 24 hours. You're going to hang these to dry at 90 Fahrenheit or 32 Celsius for 24 hours, and then we're going to place these in a cool, breezy area for 4 more days just to continue the drying process. And this is what our Lap Cheong looks like after 24 hours. And at this point, they're technically ready to eat. I mean, the bulk of the drying has already happened, but allowing them to dry for a few days more will concentrate the flavor, really develop that nice waxy texture, and they're going to be amazing. Now, you can hang these by a window. Any breezy area will work. And what I ended up doing was I brought my Lap Cheong outside to dry during the day. I took them in at night so that nothing would get to them. And after 4 days, this is what they look like.
All right, our Lap Cheong is ready. I have been looking forward to this for about a week, and I'm going to just eat it the way we prepared it here, and then I'm going to eat it by itself and share my thoughts with you. So here we go, our Lap Cheong. Okay. All right, so let me eat it by itself, and then we'll talk about it. All right, so here we go, our Lap Cheong, and I gotta tell you, I am loving the way this looks. The meat and fat bound together perfectly. We cut this pretty thin, and everything stayed together. On a quick pan fry, we've got really nice translucent fat. It smells incredible, so let's just go ahead and give it a taste. Wow. This is truly remarkable. The flavors of this Lap Cheong tend to want to bloom on the tongue. It's a little salty, a little sweet. The texture is somewhat waxy, and the fat, as you chew on it, just melts in your mouth, coats your mouth. A lot of flavor coming from this Lap Cheong. Because we used whiskey in our recipe, there's a very subtle, almost smoky element to it that's coming from the whiskey, which I particularly like. And when we cooked it with the rice just sort of soaked up the rendered fat from the Lap Cheong, adding an entirely different dimension to the rice. The paired together with a little soy sauce was absolutely brilliant. And I gotta say, if you've ever had a really bad experience with Lap Cheong from the supermarket and you've kind of sworn off Lap Cheong forever, don't let that deter you from trying this recipe, because you're gonna have to trust me when I tell you they are not even in the same category. This is superb, and I do hope you get a chance to make it. If you have any questions, leave them in the comment section below. And if you like this video or found it helpful in any way, a great big thumbs up is always appreciated. If this is the first video that you've seen from our channel and you like sausages, take a moment, hit that subscribe button and that notification bell. We're going to be posting a brand new sausage-related video every day through the month of October, and I don't want you to miss a single episode. Thanks a lot for being here. We'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.